of what's happened here. But at the same time, everybody needs to learn how to do this so that they don't have to be dependent on the grocery store for expensive onions. Good afternoon, folks. I am just out in the garden weeding my onions here and waiting for that phone call. Boy, there is a lot of weeds. Got tons of weeds here to pull around these onions and everywhere. But I'm just going to take it bit by bit. Looks like we're finally getting some heads on those. Let's see how much rain we had here. Looks like almost 5 inches of rain the last few days. So that will give you some weeds for sure. Just weeding away. And they say that onions don't like weeds, so we don't want to give them any competition. So after a rain like this, one of the things that is a good tip, and I didn't think of it, even though I know it and I do it, but you just don't think to share it, is that when you weed after it's rained and your ground is really wet, make sure, guys, that you do not leave, especially if it's grass, on top of your bed like you can normally do if it's dry. But after you've had a lot of rain, especially if it's grass that you're weeding, that can just re-establish itself. And especially if you have nice loose soil. And as I'm going through, this isn't something that's necessary, but I like to do it because I don't have the loosest soil, because I'm still developing my beds with lots of organic matter. My natural soil is clay, so I'm just kind of putting my fingers around them. Some people call it spooning it. I don't seem to be having a problem anyways, because I'm getting my onions to come up. I think if your onions are big enough, they're going to come up no matter what. But this can be the tedious part after a rain, but I haven't had to water and my onions are doing fantastic. So, but I think these red onions do need a little spooning. So I'm making sure that when I pick these grasses especially, that I am throwing them just on the floor here. And I can always rake them up and feed them to my chickens, which, as you can hear, whenever I'm in my garden, they kind of go a little bit ballistic and would love me to share some onions with them, or some weeds with them. So, because they love those weeds. So I'm just, as you can see, kind of just putting my fingers around, just making sure that those onions have room to grow. And it seems like they're doing just fine without it. It's not a have to do. It's just something that I used to do all the time. And I kind of feel like my soil is so hard that I want to make room for it. Especially like these little ones that don't seem to be bulbing up very much. Because I have ones that are bulbing up very nicely, and then others that are seeming to really, this one's kind of crooked in the earth, and then this one's fantastic down here, if you can see that. I mean, it's a good 2 inches wide, so for this time of year, that's fantastic. Of course, I got mullein that is right in my way. I have mullein all over my property. And I'm always hearing about what you can do with it, making mullein tea and stuff like that. Maybe I should try that. People are like, you can sell that stuff on Etsy. People love wild mullein. I'm like, okay. I guess maybe if I knew something about it and I had lung problems and I was doing it for myself, so I'm just kind of spooning out. These onions are looking pretty good. And just kind of, I think I'm just kind of doing it to check the sizes of things more than anything, really. Man, this grass is just horrible. Everywhere. But that's what happens when you're developing in a new area. Look at that, just a whole pile. I also have a lot of blackberry that likes to come up in my garden beds because our property is so riddled with it. So, there we go. I love red onions for making like salsas and things. And I like fresh salsa, so there's a nice sized red onion here on the edge. And a little clover growing in there. All this rain that we've had, all 5 inches of it. Here's another big mullein right there. Has really helped my onions grow. That's what your onions need at this stage. When they start bulbing, is just a lot of water to help the bulbing process. Because if you think of it, onions are full of water. Look at that beautiful one right there. I have never grown onions like this, my first year. And I literally can think, will it grow? And a few other gardeners on YouTube and YouTube University for a good garden harvest this year. Because if you really do your homework, they need nitrogen until they start bulbing up. So give them nitrogen until your whole bed is bulbing up. And then give them lots of water. And I've kind of done both at this stage because I have a lot of them bulbing up already. See, this one isn't doing that great, even though it's got as big as base as that one. Actually a little bigger, but for some reason it's not as big. But the one next to it and this one are doing really well. I'm trying to get all the roots when I get these things up. Oh, look at this beauty. Isn't that fantastic right there? So I could not be happier, and I just find that there's just not a lot of information about growing good onions. And so I'm happy and excited, and I'm very proud of what's happened here. But at the same time, everybody needs to learn how to do this so that they don't have to be dependent on the grocery store for expensive onions, you know. And they're even expensive to grow, but one of the things that and you can buy really, because they need so much nitrogen, and we're talking like 25% of nitrogen. If you are relying on a fertilizer that is from the store, you could be spending $60, $70, no joke, on a high nitrogen based fertilizer. And I have done this for free, basically, thanks to the ducks I have. Ducks poo in their water. And so if you have a couple of ducks, collect that water and throw that directly on your onions about probably 3 weeks after you you plant it. Give it a good base fertilizer to start with, good balanced, like 10-10-10 or something like that, and then throw in there after that your duck water or your chicken water. Take your chicken manure and put it in some water and literally water your onions once a week with that. And that's how you can do it for free if you have those animals. If not, make some compost tea. Look at that, we have a mouse hole or something right there. There's so many mice on this homestead, and they like to get into my garden, so I'm going to be okay. And so those are my Walla Wallas, and they have not even started bulbing up, and they're like 2 weeks behind these. They're also not for the middle. We should be doing only middle onions, and they're a more northern onion. In the middle, when you're in the middle, you can do kind of both, from what I understand. So I'm trying them because we are originally from the Washington, Oregon area where Walla Wallas are the thing. This one may be a little bit deep. And I think that's what's happened to some of my onions that are not bulbing up as well. They may be a little bit on the deep side. So plant shallow as much as possible. That's a good trick too. So you're going to give them about 25% nitrogen. So if you're looking at your label, it is the first number on there's the 3 numbers. There's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And so that is your first number. So when you're getting a 10-10-10 or something like that, a balanced, you're getting that nitrogen, phosphorus, and your potassium all at equal strengths. So what you want to do is your weekly feeding. I don't know, well, I guess because mine isn't rated. With my duck water, I did it every week. You want your onions to have growth like this, big green growth. Don't worry about them falling over. Don't worry about cutting them off. I have done all those things. And some people swear by that stuff. And I say, don't worry about it. See, I think this one was planted too deep, some of these maybe, and that's why they're not bulbing up as well. So that is a thing, I think, for sure. Right in the middle there, so much grass. But plenty of water is definitely a thing for them to bulb up well. So don't water by hand. Make sure you're getting about, I need to look that up. But I'm guessing we've had, 4 inches, and these have really started bulbing up, 5 inches of rain. So about an inch every day or less just for your onions. So, and then keep them weeded as much as possible. That does really help. I have been weeding these like crazy the whole time. We've just had like several days of rain, and so it's this is a small one, yeah, here. It's kind of overcome my bed, because when you get that much rain, that's what happens. You can't keep up with the onions or the weeds, especially if you have new developed and you haven't got a lot of mulch on your bed. That's one thing I could probably do better next year, is mulching. But my budget was really low, and so that's why I went to duck water instead of trying anything else, because I knew it was high in nitrogen, especially putting it directly on. So check out, if you're willing to go non-organic, check out Will It Grow. I'll try to leave a link for his videos below, or his onion videos. And then and he has a link to a product that he uses. It isn't cheap though. And then there's another channel. I'm sorry, I really forget the name of it. But what he uses, and he grows some beautiful onions too, is AgroThrive. And he uses the one that's just the for stuff like this, for corn and onions. And he doesn't do it once a week because it is a 25% nitrogen, which is really hard to find in any kind of, because most plants will burn, and that's why they don't have it on market a lot. So you kind of need to know what you're doing. So AgroThrive is a high nitrogen fertilizer that you can buy for onions too, if you don't have ducks. And if you have ducks, or you want to go the natural route totally, make yourself some compost tea. Do not water it down. And make sure you only have greens in that compost tea, and let that be your fertilizer for your onions. And water them until all of your onions in your beds, in the same bed, or target the ones that aren't developing bulbs yet with nitrogen. And then as soon as you, I've never put this much water on my onions either, so that the water really makes a difference. As soon as they start bulbing them, even if you're still throwing nitrogen on the ones that aren't as developed, do it about 3 inches a week at least, and then you'll get good onions like that. So that's my advice, and that's all I have for you guys. I gotta keep on keeping on. I got so much more grass to pull out of here, and I probably won't get it out because it's so hidden in this tall onion bed, but I'm going to keep on trying, because I'm not growing grass, I'm growing onions. So I hope that helps anyone out there. Go and see those channels. I'll leave a link to both of those channels below that I seek advice for this. It's the only people out there that are really even giving advice for onions. They're really good channels. And one of them, they're just good gardeners, okay? I'll leave a link to those guys, and they're both guys, and geek out on it a little bit. You guys can grow good onions too. It took me 4 years to grow these good onions, and I'm still learning, but I'm teaching you what I know when I know it. And since I've had good results, I'm giving you what I've got. So, and that will always happen on this channel. I want to teach or get information to the people that want the information. I don't think that there's enough YouTubers on there because they want to do a book deal and they want to do all these other things, which is wonderful. Good for them, right? That are giving you enough information about actual growing stuff. Another, I actually have 3 gardeners that I follow. I'm going to put them in a link below. They haven't asked me. I don't talk to them. I talk to Will It Grow every once in a while because he's in our community that I kind of hang out in. But the other 2 I don't know. They're bigger gardeners, bigger channels. One has a book, and she has taught me some really good stuff about growing broccoli. Check out those channels that are a little bit smaller that are doing this stuff well, and they might actually have the information you need. So that is my goal on this channel, is to give you guys the information I'm learning when I'm learning it, and the result. You know, if I'm getting good results from what I'm learning, I'm going to give it to you guys. I'm not going to hold it back. I could write a book later, but you know what? You guys can watch my videos and that's fine too. So God bless you guys. I hope you guys learned something today. If you learned something today, please take a chance to subscribe and look for more of my garden videos out there, because they are going to give you the stuff. My newer ones are better than my older ones. I've learned a lot this year, because I've had the time this year to really do some research. So there's a lot of good advice there. Grow with me. I don't know it all, and I'm learning a lot. So grow with me. God bless you guys, and take a minute to subscribe. I don't say this hardly anymore. Take a minute to subscribe and like. God bless. Bye.